Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to GT World Challenge Esports Europe Sprint Series here from the beautiful Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit. Tonight, we are about to engage in the 7th round of this incredibly engrossing championship, and to talk you through all of the twists, turns and dramas will be myself, Paul Jeffrey, and I am incredibly proud once again to welcome Mr. David Christie.
Very good evening, Paul. So excited to be here in the virtual recreation of Germany for a pinnacle round of the GT World Challenge Esports Europe Sprint Series. So much to talk about tonight, and I mean, all the show, everything rests on David Tinitz's shoulders tonight.
It does indeed, and as you say, it's very much a pinnacle round at the Nürburgring, a beautiful circuit. But before we get into that, let's have a look at the championship standings. David Tinitza for the Ferrari Driver Academy Esports team is very much our championship leader, having taken 3 race victories over the course of the season so far. But he's being closed down by McLaren Shadow's James Baldwin, winner last time out at Misano, and now with 90 points to his name. Baldwin very much the man on the charge forward and looking to close that gap at the front of the field. Kevin Siggy for Team Redline, another McLaren driver, is third in the standings with 73 points to his name. And the first of the VRS Co-Anda SimSport contingent is former championship challenger, but now dropping away a little bit, Josh Rogers in the Porsche 911 GT3. The second of the Ferrari Driver Academy cars is Giovanni Di Salvo, who will have something of a point to prove this weekend and going forward. In 5th position, 53 points against his name, and Eamon Murphy for Yas Heat makes it 3 McLarens in the top 6 of the championship standings, 38 points against his name, just ahead of the missing from this weekend Jeremy Butloop in the second of the VRS Co-Anda SimSport cars. Nils Naujoks is doing good work for BMW Sim Racing by G2 Esports as the highest of the BMW drivers in position 8. Tobias Pfeffer for R8G Esports is 9th in yet another McLaren, and Dare McCormack, having a great season and a great race last time out for Williams Esport, rounds out our top 10 championship chargers in the championship. Williams are represented also by Nikodem Vezneski in 11th position, and he's ahead of Luca Lazio, Sam Bagnall and Luke Whitehead in 12th, 13th and 14th, with Maciej Malinowski for Huntcroft Racing in a Porsche 15th in the standings. Yuri Petrochenko, Dominic Blyer, Martin Kronka in 18th position for VRS Co-Anda. Artie Camera in the second BMW Sim Racing by G2 Esports car is 19th, and in 20th position is Tiziano Brioni in the MCW Racing by Esports Mercedes-Benz. The final point scorers of the championship up to this point in proceedings is Darren King in 21st, Lucas Muller 22nd, Martin Stefanko, another Williams driver, in 23rd position, and Gregor Schill, a point scorer, in 10th position last time out in Misano for BMW. And David Christie, been a while since we've had you together on this one, and Nürburgring is a track where you can very much overtake, isn't it? And I reckon we're going to have quite the race in front of us.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we get the level of skill that we've got and assembled in front of our very eyes tonight, Paul, it is going to be an amazing race. Combine that with the fact we're at Nürburgring, 3.2 miles just about. It's just over 5 kilometres, and there are so many opportunities where you can overtake, not just out the slipstream, but last of the late breakers. For example, through the Mercedes Arena, up to that NGK chicane, that second to last corner is going to be absolutely crucial. But also, I think that's going to be a big flashpoint for potential contact.
Let's see what happens as the racing unfolds in a few minutes' time. Now, everybody at home, first and foremost, obviously, welcome to the broadcast. It's great to have you with us. Just to give you a little taste, if you're new to SRO Esports, as to what is about to unfold over the next hour or so of action. This is a 60-minute sprint race. The drivers will have to serve a mandatory pit stop, so that means there will be a 10-minute window that opens during the course of the race where drivers must visit pit lane. They must come to a stop in their box, and they must take a minimum of 1 litre of fuel. They don't have to take any more than that. They don't have to take tyres, but they must serve that stop in order to satisfy the regulations of the race. And that opens up a little bit of strategy. Do you come in at the beginning of that pit window? Do you leave it right to the very death? And we've seen, David, haven't we, over the course of the European season, the Asia season, the Americas and the British as well, we've seen quite a few different strategies, and often that can be the making or breaking of your final championship, so your final race position.
Absolutely, it's just another key in the puzzle, isn't it? So many different variables that add to the charm of this championship. For instance, with the Bentley, that's quite a heavy car, and that prefers to be heavy with fuel. So you might find the likes of Mateusz Tiskovic deciding to come in early and get as much fuel into that car as he possibly can to aid the performance on that thing. Whereas the Aston, I think you might find them running towards the end of the pit stop window. Those things like running quite lean, and with the likes of Bastian Richter and Tobias Grunwald, I think that's exactly what they're going to do tonight.
And that's fantastic. A bit of insight there from Derek Christie. But while we're getting ready to start the race, let's have a look at the entry list for this round. Now, of course, as usual, the top 5 in the championship automatically secure a ticket into the next race, and everybody else has to go through a hot lap qualification process. And some of the key names that we have here: Giovanni Di Salvo, Kevin Siggy, up at the sharp end of the championship, James Baldwin, of course, the number 28 car for McLaren Shadow. But we've also got some other big name drivers. Ayanori Rose once again for the Sro Esports Academy, female racer. Be great to see if she can convert some of her natural pace into a result today. Nils Naujoks once again for BMW Sim Racing G2 Esports, and the big M6 GT3. It'll be interesting to see if he can wrestle a result out of that car before the end of the day. Young Charlie Crossland for Team Fordzilla, one of the many Bentleys that should be competitive here today, is representing the car number 66. Robbie Stapleford, another up-and-coming young driver for Zansho Simsport in the McLaren 720S. And of course, our championship leader, David Tanitsa, car number 99 for the FDA Esports team in the Ferrari 488 GT3 Evo. Angus Fender of British GT fame in the BS competition BMW M6. So again, BMW represented by more than one team today. It'll be fascinating to see how they compare to each other over the course of the race. Bastian Richter, Unicorns of Love, fan favourite in the Aston Martin Vantage AMR GT3, rocks number 114 during the course of this race. Eamon Murphy, he's a driver that we've seen plenty of over the course of the season. We can expect big things from Eamon Murphy after a strong race last time out at Mazzano. Nicholas Hillebrand as well for Williams. Arctic Camera needs a good result. We know he's fast, but he does not have the point score that maybe he would have expected heading into this championship. And Maciej Malinowski, number 991 for Huntfoot Racing in the Porsche 911, rounds out the entry list. And I've said this every round, David, and I'm going to say it again: that is a tasty field of eSport drivers.
That really, really is. That's no word of a lie there, Paul. I mean, I look at them and I've commentated on about 90% of those drivers before. Just seeing there an instant on lap qualifying involving the 11 and the 52 car there. A 10-second penalty for the 52 car. So that's Kevin Siggy and Tobias Grunwald. So it's a 10-second penalty before we've even got going to Tobias Grunwald. Paul, what do you make of that?
That is not the news that Tobias needs heading into this race. A 10-second penalty. Of course, that will be added to his time during his mandatory pit stop, so he won't have to come specially down pit lane to serve that. But it's when the field's so close, and we'll get on to how close it is in a moment when we look at qualification. 10 seconds, David. It's so difficult to make that time loss back up again, isn't it? And of course, double whammy, it throws you very much into the heart of the traffic as well.
It really does, Paul, but it also goes hand in hand with what you just said there. The level of drivers on this field is absolutely frightening. The fact that we've got 35 drivers, right, get this, 35 drivers within 1 second of the pole time is just absurd. We don't see that anywhere else. That 10 seconds could quite possibly be a death sentence tonight.
Yeah, it is. It's quite literally the difference between easily finishing on the podium and finishing that far away from the points that you actually need to book a holiday to go and see it. So real shame for Tobias Grunwald, but we'll see what he can do over the course of the race. This 60 minutes, a mandatory stop. There's plenty of racing between now and when the checkered flag falls, so all is not lost. The key, of course, to any racing event in real or virtual worlds is push to the very, very end, because you never know what will happen, although Tobias Grönwald will, whatever he did in qualifying, will very much be ruining that mistake now, I'm sure.
I think he will, but then we have to look at Kevin Siggy as well. Qualified in 21st position. That's massively out of position for somebody who's third in the championship. So, ironically, might have got off quite lucky. I can also see on YouTube as well, some of our viewers getting a little bit concerned that the rain was out there. Thankfully, that was just some build-up can footage that we had there. But I think it's time to head down to the grid, Paul.
It is indeed, so let's have a look at our starting field. Bastian Richter is our pole position man, with the aforementioned 10-second penalty carrying Tobias Grönwald joining him on the front row of the grid in the number 52. James Baldwin, very much the man of the moment in the sprint series, qualifies in third position, will fancy his chances of progressing to the front of the field by the course of the checkered flag. Nils Naujoks is there for company in fourth position for the BMW G2 Esports team. Matthias Tiskovic in fifth position, the first of the Bentley Continentals. Again, another driver that fancies his chances of a big result today. Artur Camara joins him in sixth position on the third row of the grid. Vincent Ehrbrich in seventh place, hot off the back of a great victory in the Endurance Series, lines up seventh. Young Robbie Stapleford in eighth position, and this, shock horror, is the Ferrari contingent. Giovanni Di Salvo, the fastest of the two FDA cars, in ninth position. David Tenitza, championship leader, all the way down in 10th. Hoban is 11th position in the Audi, just behind. He'll be looking to see if there's some opportunities to take a position or two on this opening lap, and he has Klinkmuller in 12th position for company. P13th is Kisser in the Lamborghini Huracan GT3. That's the first of the Lamborghinis, and much like buses, you see one, here comes another one. That's right, that is Dominic Blyer in 14th place in the number 10 machine. Leona Toke is 15th on the grid, just ahead of Jan Osterman in the AMR V8 Vantage GT3 number 77. Yuri Petrichenko even, put my teeth in, is 17th on the grid, just ahead of Dare McCormack, and a good qualification for Maciej Malinowski in 19th position. Malinowski finds himself just ahead of Eamon Murphy in 20th place. 21st, as David rightly said, Kevin Siggy, a very, very disappointing qualification for the number 11 machine. Gregor Schill in 22nd. There you can see them just on the grid. Kevin Siggy on the left-hand side in the red line car. Gregor Schill in the BMW alongside. So disappointing for them, 21st, 22nd on the grid. Ayanori Rose is 23rd in the Ferrari for Jean Alesi Esports Academy. Sever, 24th position, just ahead of Mattia Blotto in 25th. 26th place is Luca Lozio in the McLaren number 3 machine, another Jean Alesi entered car that you see there. Jan Wilhelm von Onman in 27th position, and Nico Hillebrand in 28th, just ahead of Sean Bagnall and Charlie Crossland. Crossland will be incredibly disappointed in the Ford Zilla car to be just 30th on the grid, but when the field is this close, little seconds make all the difference. Gerardis, 31st position, just ahead of Pirichim in 32nd. Angus Fender down in the number 109 machine in P33 on the grid. Sevalone, 34th. Prendergrass in 35th. And Stewart in P36. The number 89 BMW of Attila Dench in 37th place. He is ahead of Romanenko, who has Bonacorse and Durkop in 39 and 40th. And then rounding out the last few runners will be Antomarchi for Lexus, Pedrozine also in a Lexus, Darren King in the Honda NSX GT3 Evo, 1.6 seconds covering 42 cars, 1 second covering the top 36. We have competitive racing here in the SRO Esports Championship, and if that is not a sign of how competitive it is, David Christie, I don't know what is.
I feel your pain, Paul, because you get to the end of that grid on the lineup here, and you feel like you're ready to pass out with how many names you've got to read out there. But it honestly is like a who's who of Assetto Corsa Competizione and the top names in that field. It really, really is going to be a very, very strong race. God help anyone that's watching down from turn one. That's all I'm going to say at this one. But we always say that, and then what you find is a masterclass of actually how you can race hard and fair on these servers. Just to bring our viewers up to date as well, the number 5th place car of Mateusz Tiskovic at the moment is shown as car number 24. Of course, he is in as 124, so he is there, just shown as a slightly different number for tonight, so don't get confused. But the cars making their way round on their formation lap, Paul. I mean, I am absolutely buzzing for this race tonight, and it looks like everybody else that's watching is as well.
Yeah, it really is going to be. I mean, I often say this, and part of the job in the commentary booth is to add a bit of excitement into things, but you really don't need to do that in this championship. It is just the action on circuit very, very much speaks for itself, and we've had some sensational driving all the way through this championship, some sensational battling and some really, really close racing, and I expect this one to be exactly the same again. And just to add a little bit more spice, David, into the mix, I'm hearing in my ear that the chance of rain is 65 to 70% by the course, by the completion of this race. Rain.
Well, that would be very, very spicy, but I think that's actually diminishing, because I think it was a lot more, but it does look like clear blue skies above, so I don't know what the weather gods have got in store for us, but what I can promise you is one of the most intense 60 minutes that I think we've seen so far this season. A lot rests on tonight, Paul.
It does indeed, and remember, this is the 7th round of the championship. There are 10 racers altogether. We're next up on the 15th of October at the beautiful Imola circuit, so it's a big deal for a lot of these drivers. David Tinitza, James Baldwin, Kevin Siggy in particular, 1, 2 and 3 in the championship. Tinitza, remember, down in 10th position, so this is very much James Baldwin's opportunity to go forth and score some big points. Our pole position man Bastian Richter very much had little to do with the to trouble the point scorers at the front of the field, so this is quite a new experience for the Unicorns of Love teammates 1 and 2, so big opportunity. But David, you've got to be careful, haven't you? The opening laps, we've seen it before, seen it with Darren Tinitza, can easily end in tears.
It really can, and this is the most important part of the race. The first 5, 10, 15 minutes to keep calm, to keep composed. This is when you can certainly lose it. You can't win the race right now, but you can certainly lose it, and it can all go horribly, horribly wrong.
It can indeed, and the place you want to be at this stage of the race, exactly where these two beautiful liveried cars are at the front of the field. You can control the pace, you can control the drama around you. That is exactly what Bastian Richter and Tobias Gronewold will be hoping to do as we round the chicane now on the final formation up to the grid. The cars will line up 2 by 2. They'll navigate their way through the final Coca-Cola curve, and then all eyes will be focused on the timing gantry at the top of the start-finish straight. They will see 5 red lights. That signifies you must continue holding formation pace, but we are about to get ready to go racing. We're looking for that green light. We're about to begin the GT World Challenge Esports Europe Sprint Series. Bastian Richter, pole position, green flags wave, and the race is going immediately. Niels Naujoks to the outside makes the dash for the race lead. Tobias Gronewold in the middle of the sandwich. Bastian Richter to the inside. Naujoks all the way around the outside from 4th position. Can he convert that into an early race lead? No, he can't, but he contact further down the running order. One of the FDA cars involved in the drama as well. I see a BS competition, BMW kicking up the dirt, but at the front of the field, Bastian Richter just about holds on. No, he doesn't. Niels Naujoks, 4th position by the 3rd corner, takes the race lead. James Baldwin trying to buy into this fight as well, and the BMW does a fantastic job, and the Audis get gobbled up off the start.
Yeah, that was a fantastic start there for Bastian Richter, but have a look at James Baldwin. He is harassing that Aston Martin to within an inch of its life, but Nicholas Hillebrand in the Honda doing an absolute storming start, all the way ahead of David Tinitza, a little bit further down the order just now. But what a start right now, and we've got 58 minutes left to go right now in this race. What a start though for that BMW.
Yeah, brilliant stuff from Naujok's, from 4th on the grid to an early race lead. We know the BMW doesn't necessarily have the pace it needs to run clearly at the front of the field, but there we go. Great stuff from Naujok. Championship leader David Tanitsa down in 21st position, so just what we worried about off the start, right in the middle of the pipe where the danger kicks off, and David Tanitsa for the second time in as many races has found himself in significant trouble and lies 21st place. His teammate Giovanni Di Salvo, no such trouble, running 8th on the track just behind Hoban there. That's Nicholas Hoban in the 122 Audi R8 GT3s. We see the Bentley running over the grass. That is Tiskovic, I think it is now. So Tiskovic holding these two up. That might be an opportunity for Di Salvo coming down the final corner onto the back straight. Di Salvo will be hoping all of the speed in the Ferrari gives him enough of an advantage, but he's dropping back. The Audi and the Bentley pushing through the air quicker than the 488 GT3 can manage, and Giovanni Di Salvo has to keep a watching brief, and it's Nicholas Hoban on the attack.
Wow, incredible stuff. I said the key word here was intensity, and that's exactly what we've had as we've got all the cars still piling in to turn one just now. Angus Fender has found himself into a bit of mischief. The 109 now completely off the back of the field as the rest of the cars make their way through the arena part of the circuit. Nils Naujok, though, still in the lead of this race and looking very comfortable, Paul, you've got to say right now.
Yeah, that's exactly what Naujok's needed to do. Meanwhile, let's go back to David Tanitsa again, already starting to recover. Last time we spoke about him, 21st off the flag. He's actually losing or trying to fight with Petrochenko, and there we go. Tanitsa goes for a little visit to the beach, and actually is he pulling the car off to the side of the racetrack? No, he's just trying to find a gap in the traffic, and David Tanitsa's day goes from bad to worse. The championship leader had a nightmare off the start, tried to make a recovery, made contact with the Honda NSX, and now Tanitsa plummets down the running order to 38th position. Oh, David Tanitsa, what is happening today? This could have incredibly large implications for the championship challenge right at the very front, especially with James Baldwin sniffing around the podium positions.
Oh, we've got contact further up. That's Nicholas Hilbrandt in the Honda after the great start that he did. He's all the way down into 36th position there. That is a disaster there. 18 places lost in the blink of an eye after all that work he did in the Honda. That is absolutely devastating, and it looks like Oosterman is going to get that position as well. What an... I'm just speechless at that one. That's such a shame for Hillebrand.
Yeah, that really is. Maciej Malinowski has a drive-through penalty as well, I saw on our timing screen. I'm hearing in our ear as well that Groeneveld has made contact in the final corner, being hit by one of his rivals, so he's dropping down the running order. Meanwhile, Giovanni Di Salvo inherits 6th position because of that bit of drama as Hoban and Tiskovic side by side coming through the Mercedes Arena complex as well. Gregor Schill still outside of the points paying positions in a race where his teammate is race leader. Vincent Airbridge doing solid work inside the top 10 as well. That is Kisser just behind him in the Lamborghini, but Tiskovic, we got in James Baldwin 3rd position. Tiskovic that we're looking at here now in position 4. Hoban as well, and Giovanni Di Salvo all squabbling over the same bit of tarmac in what has been a frantic opening to this race, David.
Oh, it really has, hasn't it? My goodness me, we've almost been lost trying to find out what to talk about on this because everything's going on at the same time. But Hoban up ahead then of Matej Triskovic then for Triton Racing in that number 24. He's got the number 4 behind him, that Ferrari of Giovanni Di Salvo. And again, this is the problem, Paul. You lose a position and the pace that you lose is absolutely unreal. You lose one position and you're quite likely to lose 7 or 8 in one turn.
Yeah, it's very NASCAR-esque, isn't it? That you get yourself off the racing line and suddenly you're freight trained by a whole bunch of other cars, and that's the balancing act these drivers have got to weigh up. As if you're making an overtaking manoeuvre, you've got to be confident in what you're doing, that you can pull that overtaking manoeuvre off. Otherwise, you will have a whole train of cars making their way past. We're looking now, Dominic Blyer on board in the DV1 Triton Racing Lamborghini, 12th position going through the chicane. That is a mistake ahead of him as well. That Stapleford runs through the chicane in an inoptimal way. Blyer now to the outside. That's not going to be enough of a run for the Lamborghini, but he should get the launch off at the corner. Robbie Stapleford on the defensive. Dominic Blyer now also trying to cover from the recovering Tobias Groenewald in 13th position. So Groenewald goes around the outside, and the Unicorns of Love machine. Everybody gets closed down in the braking zone as well. The pendulum effect into the first corner of the car ahead. The BMW, a little bit heavy on the brakes. Everybody else joins up the bike of that fight as well. And I don't know where to look. Vincent Airbridge knows where to look, and that is to his side and forward, because he is in the middle of a monumental fight with a Lamborghini and an Audi in the big Bentley Continental GT3.
Paul, we need to get a local breakers yard to sponsor this sim race, because I don't think there's going to be any panels on these virtual cars untouched after this 60-minute race. But up the front, there's Noyox, Bastian Richter and James Baldwin are starting to break away. They've got a little three-car group, 3 seconds ahead of Nicholas Hauben, who's involved with that fight with Matthias Tiskovic. We've got a penalty there, though. Instant on lap 1 involving car Sim 47 and 81, who's got a car going off at the chicane there. The 5-second penalty for the 81 then. So that is for Robbie Stapleford for that avoidable contact early on. I've got the feeling we're going to see many, many more of those, Paul.
Oh yes, I would not want to be in the stewards team today for this one. There's been plenty of drama in the opening few laps, and Vincent Airbridge has been very much a man involved with some of that as well. He's down in 10th position now, so he's lost out to Kisser in the 666 car. Robbie Stapleford, the man we've just spoken about with a 5-second time penalty, is currently in 11th position. So Stapleford now has a little bit of work to do. Looking at Tobias Grunewald here in 12th, Unicorns of Love, number 52 machine. He's got to serve 10 seconds at his pit stop in about 20 minutes time, but Grunewald at this moment in time is not interested in what the academics of a time penalty will bring him. He's currently trying to find a little bit of clean air on the racetrack, and the big thing that is stopping him from doing that is the man ahead of him. Robbie Stapleford needs to find a way past Stapleford, but needs to defend from the charging pack as well behind, as Dominic Blyer now getting himself involved. That's the Mercedes of Ataki and McCormack fighting side by side as well. I literally do not know where to look on this racetrack, as Dan McCormack now keeps the inside in the Williams machine. Leon Ateki trying to find a way past. He wants to join his Unicorns of Love teammates at the front of the field, but he's got plenty of work to do, does Leon Ateki, to find that way past and to make life a little bit harder. Eamon Murphy, 17th position, all the way up the rear of the Mercedes, trying to see if an opportunity presents itself.
I'll be honest with you, I did say pre-race that this was potentially going to be a pivotal race for the championship, Paul. I didn't expect this at all. Your championship leader, David Tanitsa, currently down in 38th position. Your other contender down in 3rd place, who's out there with James Baldwin, Kevin Siggy, is down in 36th position. So James Baldwin is absolutely laughing himself right now. If James Baldwin keeps this up, this is going to be huge points and potentially championship changing right now.
Yeah, this is a red letter day for Baldwin for sure. He needs to make hay while the sun shines, so to speak, and his rivals are in difficulty. That is Tanitsa now moving up to 36th position, so he's just put a move on the man that he made contact with earlier in the race. That's Nico Hilbrand in the HPD Jazz Pro Europe Honda entry. So Tanitsa now 36, but do not for a second doubt that car is all facing in the right direction. That Ferrari be damaged for his Skittles manoeuvres that he's been making early in the race. So Tanitsa losing out on real estate, losing out on lap time, and carrying a hobbled car as well. It's going to be a long day for the FDA eSports driver. Meanwhile, let's have a look at Bastian Richter, the Unicorns of Love pole sitter. There's Sam Bagnall. Bagnall, the final corner, facing the wrong direction. Oh, what a terrible position for this to happen. Tanitsa made contact as well, so David Tanitsa can't help but give a little bit of a love kiss to the Porsche, but that is massive time loss for Bagnall there.
Do you remember that line from Days of Thunder about hitting the pace car? I think that's David Tanitsa's next move after this one, because I think he's made contact with every single car on this track apart from in pit lane. I just don't know what to say. That was a horrible, horrible accident at the last corner, completely unsighted. And to be honest, very, very lucky that car didn't get collected by several more. But the race goes on. And the race with Bastian Richter and Niles Noyox is absolutely fascinating. And having seen these two on various different championships. I know exactly, or I've got a very good idea what is happening right now. Richter is absolutely on the pace of Neuyaux right now, but he is getting Neuyaux to do all of the hard work, because that BMW is notoriously hard on its tyres through the course of the race. So I think Richter is just holding on to the back of Neuyaux and getting him to tone him round. The other thing that the BMW has got on its side is the fact the raw horsepower that thing does have. So down the main straight, it will just absolutely tear away. But Richter right now, I think, just keeping Neuyaux within touching distance, but not going to be making any moves. He's going to have to watch though, because look in the background, there's James Baldwin again.
And this is exactly what James Baldwin needs at this stage in the race. Well, these two continue to keep each other entertained. And as you said, David, very correctly, the BMW is incredibly fast in a straight line. Maybe not the quickest car over the course of a single lap under normal conditions, but give it a good straight like we have here at the Nürburgring, and that can do some damage. So Baldwin just needs to start eking his way up the running order, just keep himself nice and in contention with those two, and maybe do something a little bit different during the pit stop cycle and see what kind of advantage he can bring for himself. This is Vincent Airbrish now for the Racing Line Motorsports number 12 machine. We're riding on board with the big Bentley Continental GT3 in the last currently of the points paying positions, in 10th position. That is Kisser just ahead in the Lamborghini. So this has been a solid start to the race for Vincent Airbrish. We've seen plenty of him in SRO competition. He was very much one of the stars in the SRO AM Championship a couple of years ago, and as I said, joined VRS Coanda last time out for the Endurance Series to take a win as René Sever facing the wrong way with damage. So he's made some contact. Airbrish, there we go again in an incredibly smoky room, just like last time. Vincent Airbrish using I don't know how I can see the screen there, but whatever he's doing it well for RLM at this moment in time, and very much in contention to move up into a higher place in the points.
I'm loving that. That's a potato cam right there in the bottom right corner for Vincent Airbright, but doesn't seem to be making any difference to his driving style. Great performance, as you said, to get himself into the top 10 just now. Potentially gets himself into the running with the likes of Klinkmuller and Kammerer a little bit further up as well, and he could be trying to get himself pushing up into the points later on. But, I mean, 45 minutes left to go. We've already had 50 minutes. I've got to be honest, Paul, I don't think my little heart can take another 45 minutes of this. It's just been incredible action that we've had in this first opening part of the race.
The second this broadcast finishes, I am writing to the Guinness World Records for the longest period of time a man can go without breathing, because that has been 15 breathless minutes of racing, and I've got a feeling we've got plenty more still to go, as well as Eamon Murphy now. We're riding on board in the Yas Heat machine. This is the 17th place car, and look how many cars he's got ahead of him, all within touching distance, all within the opportunity to potentially mount an attack. So Murphy will be gutted to be all the way down in 17th, but look, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10 points. There we go, all in the same shot through the windshield of that Yas Heat car. So Murphy not having a great run at this moment in time, but he is still very much in contention to come away from today with a handful of very juicy, thank you very much indeed, championship points.
And as we all know, points make prizes at the end of the season. The other thing that is very much impressing me is how well this balance of performance is working throughout the season. That looks to be, 7 different constructors in the top 10. It's fantastic to see, and it really does level out the playing field. And lap time wise, we're still in the high 153s into the low 154s, but slightly depressingly, you go back down to the likes of Kevin Siggy and David Tinitza. They're doing high 154s right now, 154.7 for Kevin Siggy and 154.9 for David Tinitza. So even if they can undo the damage and pick their way through, I think the fact that they're about 30 seconds behind the race leader kind of shows just what a disastrous opening 15 minutes has been for them.
Yeah, it's been a real painful start to the race for two of our championship contenders. But for the neutrals, such as ourselves and everybody at home, that's great news for the championship, as it really, really opens us up. As Dominic Blyer does a little bit of courtesy grass cutting on the exit of the chicane. That really won't hurt his progress much at all in the DV1 Triton Lamborghini machine. So Blyer now 14th place. Ahead of him is Gregor Schild. Remember, Stapleford and Grolvold both will be receiving a time penalty at their next next stop. So there's some 3 overtakes for Dominic Blyer and co, and Lena Teke and Dare McCormack behind as well, both fighting very hard to keep themselves in contention. There is Gregor Schill actually running a little bit wide. Stableford sneaks his way past. We've got Blyer now trying to bang into that one as well. Thank you very much, Gregor Schill. I will take that position from you, but Schill says no. Schill stays to the inside, runs very rude as well, thank you, to the outside. Dominic Blyer's Lamborghini. So that is Gregor Schill keeping 13th position. That allows Dare McCormack to sneak through as well. So very aggressive but very necessary driving from the BMW man.
Momentum is so important, Paul, on this track. As we said, you lose one place, you're very likely to lose at least 1, 2, 3 others when they're tightly bunched up in these little groups. That's exactly what they're waiting for. Just looking there, Bastian Richter, purple lap, fastest lap of the race, that last lap round, 153.616. Niels Noyox in the 62 BMW doing a 153.814. That gap is back down to about 0.2 of a second. But again, Richter just looks like he's poised, waiting, biding his time almost, and waiting for the right opportunity. James Baldwin, as much as he's keeping in tow with this little battle as well, I do wonder if he's thinking about the championship at this point and just thinking, just leave these two to get on with their own fight.
Either that, or is Baldwin playing it clever and just keeping his tyres under stress, keeping them alive, and then when the pit window comes and potentially a little bit of clean air comes his way, give it everything he's got and see if he can try and jump at least one of these 2 race leaders during the pit window. That would be a smart play, I think, from Baldwin at this moment in time, because I know what you're saying about let's think about the championship, but it's just such a good opportunity. David Tanitsa does not have bad days at the racetrack, as Gregor Schill now looks to the inside of Robbie Stapleford, come from a long way back, but Schill not quite alongside enough. Stapleford has the measure of that one, but leaves the door open in fights. Gregor Schill back up the inside, but nothing doing. Robbie Stapleford stays in 12th position. But yeah, just going back to that one, James Baldwin playing it safe is attractive, but when you've got a good chance of getting a 25-point delta to your main championship rival, you've got to go for it, surely.
I would think so, to be honest with you. I was just trying to make it out that he was this cool, calm, collected, professional individual. But let's face it, when we're all behind the wheel, whether that's in real life or behind the sim, it is a genuine thing. It becomes very, very difficult to stay disciplined and to think about the bigger picture. You're thinking about that car in front of you. You're thinking about getting the fastest lap. You're thinking about getting that gap down as small as it can be. And if he gets within touching distance, you better believe that he's going to make a move. And look at that, he was 1.5 seconds back, and now he's almost right onto the tail of Bastian Richter and Niels Noyox here. So obviously we do our best to try and keep an eye throughout the field, but you get the impending sense that this is building up to something big.
Yeah, it really is, and there's no surprises that James Baldwin has dug deep and found some lap time just as we're about to start thinking about the pit window procedure as well. As I mentioned at the top of the show, a mandatory pit stop window for 10 minutes will be open, and normally that comes on stream with 35 minutes of the race to go. So 25 minutes down, 35 minutes remain, and this is where James Baldwin now starts to close that gap down, starts to give himself some options when this pit window comes. He'll watch what his rivals do. In 3rd position, you have the luxury, the advantage over the 2 leaders, that you can watch what they do and then do something different if you so desire. They've got to make the decisions, you've just got to react. And I do think that James Baldwin now is starting to put himself into that zone where he can have an attack, as Robbie Stapleford goes 3 wide NASCAR style. Robbie Stapleford, the meat in the sandwich. He sees the Unicorns of Love Mercedes to the outside, gives him a little bit of a love kiss. That's the struggling BMW as well, trying to find a way. Gregor Schill going toe to toe as well. That opens the door to Petroshenko, thank you very much indeed. Yuri Petroshenko round the outside of the squad running trio, and Gregor Schill is getting mullered left, right and centre. The flash of the lights, that is a Unicorns of Love car, not happy. And Gregor Schill 15th position, 16th position, Dominic Blyer, Dare McCormack, a long way up the road, as is Robbie Stapleford, and there's quite a bit of drama there, David, and it doesn't look like it's finished yet.
And what did we say? Momentum is so key in this track. But can we just take a second to reflect on what Robbie Stapleford did there? He saw 4 cars in front of him and then just decided, no, I'm just going to shove it up the middle there and take all 4 of yous in the one corner there. Absolutely outrageous move from Robbie Stapleford. Incredible talent, and what a move to take that 14th position. That was really, really impressive. I'm so glad we actually got to catch that.
Yeah, that was some great driving. We've seen Robbie Stapleford coming of age somewhat, I think, over the last 12, 18 months or so, and that is a really good show. Absolutely no fear, but full awareness of where his car is around and about with the rivals and competition on track. And the reward for Robbie Stapleford was an outstanding overtaking manoeuvre and 14th position so far in the race. And Yuri Petrochenko as well that we're looking at now. This is another driver that has benefited from this drama. It seems like Gregor Schill is going backwards a little bit at the moment in the G2 BMW Esports machine. Schill does not have the pace of those around him, and Yuri Petrochenko, having found himself moved up into 16th position, getting greedy and fancying another position as well, and he needs to move quickly. If these cars cannot clear Gregor Schill, there's a fear that Stapleford, McCormack et al. Ahead will start to gap the chasing pack. Meanwhile, car incident on lap 2 involving car 77 and 429. A warning to car 77 for avoidable contact, and that is Jakob Osterman in the GAADI Racing Aston Martin for avoidable contact.
Yeah, that is unfortunate, but given that was an amazing bit of action that we saw there from 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th and 18th position. Eamon Murphy doing his best in that Yaz Heat machine, that 420, to catch onto the back and stay on the back of Otaki in that 54 AMG. Meanwhile, further down, let's have a look at your championship contenders, because Kevin Siggy in the middle of the fight of his life right now, 25th position, and still making his way through the field just now, as well as David Tanitza in the 29th position just now. So that is, I'm also hearing that we're going to get a drive-through or a notice of a drive-through penalty very shortly. There you go, car number 12 gets a drive-through penalty for avoidable contact. That's Vincent Erbrich in the Racing Line Motorsport Bentley Continental for contact with the 52. That's Tobias Grunwald in the Unicorns of Love Aston. And we saw Tobias drop in places.
That's a real shame in this fight for the top 10. So Erbrich will be, of course, taking that time penalty, as will his rivals, when the pit window opens in 1 minute and 48 seconds and change. And now, 10th position for the Racing Line Motorsport car. That's going to cost him. That's going to drop him outside of the points. So what Erbrich needs to do now is get into pit lane as early as possible, serve that pit stop and try and charge and make some of that time up while his rivals are squabbling over the same bit of racetrack. Meanwhile, let's have a look at Yuri Petrochenko, dropped off the rear of Gregor Schill's BMW now. That's quite a big deficit to the BMW, so Petrochenko no doubt got involved in a little bit of shenanigans on the previous lap, and that gives Gregor Schill a little bit of breathing room, 1.1 seconds worth of breathing room to be precise. So Schill now will need to use that to his advantage, as once again the drama is about to ramp up another level as we're heading very soon into the pit window process for these drivers.
Yep, less than a minute left to go before we start seeing the strategy unfold. We start seeing the next chapter in this race being written in front of our very eyes. And look, we talked about this pre-race, Paul, about the strategy, about the different ways that drivers can approach this. And like I said, I think if Basti Richter was going to make the move, he would have made it by now, or at least attempted it. I think he's sitting behind Noyox, happily taking the tow. Maybe he's going to try and do a different strategy, but I think he's going to actually duck in at exactly the same time as Niles Noyox. But Noyox going a little bit wide there at that exit of the chicane there, and Richter has a good run out the final corner here.
Yeah, that's a good opportunity for Bastian Richter, but just like we spoke about earlier in the broadcast, David, the speed of that BMW is just so impressive down this back straight. Richter starts to close it down towards the braking zone thanks to the slipstream effect, but the BMW just has enough GGs to get him down the track and keep him in a safe position. Meanwhile, Vincent Erbrich is the first man to dive down pit lane as the pit window opens, as predicted. So he'll be serving that time penalty, although it's saying drive-through on the screen, so not quite sure exactly what is happening there. But Bastian Richter now on his tippy toes. This is crucial moments in this race for all of our drivers. We're in the pit window process now. Will Bastian Richter try and liberate the position on the racetrack from Nils Naujoks? Will he follow the BMW man down pit lane or do something different? And can James Baldwin take some advantage?
Yeah, just to clarify, the number 12 of Airbrush had a drive-through penalty for that earlier contact with the 52 of Tobias Grunwald, so that's why that was shown up on the screen for that one. But Bastian Richter all over the tail, as you said, of Niels Naujoks. Again, I think this is just pressure. I think that Richter is just waiting, trying to force that BMW to hold that BMW, and I think he's closer now than he ever has been, because that gap was about 3 to 4 tenths of a second, and right now he is on the boot lid of that BMW. Naujoks has nowhere else to look but the front end of that Aston Martin.
This is fantastic racing. Two drivers at the very, very top of their game, pushing the car to the absolute limit within millimetres of each other. We're coming through the chicane now. Will anybody jump down pit lane? No, they will not. Bastian Richter stays in second position once again. Gets a good run through the final corner on Nils Naujoks. He's closer than he was on the last lap, but the power of the BMW just gaps the Aston Martin behind. The Unicorns of Love machine will start to close down again, heading into the braking zone, but Naujoks holds on to the lead, and this is bringing James Baldwin very, very firmly into play, and Houben as well in fourth position, and Tiskovic in P5 are also starting to gather some momentum and join up. A race between two for the front of the field is very quickly turning into a race between five.
Oh, this is starting to get a little bit exciting, as if it could anymore. Robbie Stapleford then, the first man in the top 20 to blink, followed then by Otoki and Aonori Rose in the 56 Ferrari as well. They are the early pitters right now. 7.5 minutes left to go in the pit window. This is where it all counts right now, because Naujoks and Richter and Baldwin and Houben and Tiskovic, they're all watching each other intently. I think once one goes, all of them go at the same time. 32 minutes left to go in this race, and I think that both me and you, Paul, at the end of this one, we're not going to have any nails left whatsoever.
Absolutely, this has been so incredible for the opening half of this race, and there's still plenty of drama left to unfold. So let's have a quick look now before we get disturbed with the pit stops. Nils Naujoks is our race leader from fourth on the grid. This is Nils Naujoks for the replay at the start. So we're fourth on the grid. We're on the outside coming down into the first corner. There are the two Unicorns of Love machines ahead of us. The green flag, we get a great launch in the BMW. Immediately the outside becomes open to us. This is the danger zone for Nils Naujoks now. To the outside, he's got a danger of making contact. James Baldwin left, right, left again, trying to find a way past everybody. Naujoks, last of the late breakers, just keeps the car on the rear quarter of Bastian Richter. That gives him the inside for the left-hander. Just a little bit of a wiggle as well, keeps the car under control. Richter very politely gives him enough racing room. James Baldwin tries to fit a McLaren 720S into that gap, but the inside becomes the outside. Bastian Richter keeps second position, and Nils Naujoks thanks his lucky stars, his Christmas presents, his birthday presents, and everything else in between for a great race win.
Do you know that bit a lap ago, Paul, when you said this two-car race for the lead is going to turn into a five-car race? Well, I think we're safely there. Nicholas Houben right up to the back end of James Baldwin, who is a stone's throw away from Bastian Richter and Niels Naujoks, and it's now up to Matthias Tiskovic to come and join the party. He's about 6/10 of a second behind them, but I wonder about Niels Naujoks and his tyres. I wonder how much they can handle of this intense pressure. He's still doing low 154s, 154.039, but every lap, almost consistently, for the past 10 laps, Bastian Richter has been faster than the BMW. This is a replay at the start from Robbie Stapleford then, starting in 8th position, and currently a little bit further down than that, after getting nudged there from the 95 there.
Yeah, Stapleford is very much a victim of being in the middle of a very, very busy racetrack on the opening lap. The cars are at the heaviest that they are at any stage in the weekend. The tyres are at their coldest, as are the brakes. And sadly for Stapleford, a little bit of a mistake, running him into the back of the BMW as well. And that's where some of the early drama befell young Robbie Stapleford. But Nicholas Holborn, let's give this man a shout out. If memory serves me correct, this is the first time that we've seen the GTWR R8G Academy driver in this championship. And who's that going down pit lane? Is that one of our race leaders? That is the Aston Martin of Bastian Richter. I think it is. Jumping down pit road, yes it is. So Bastian Richter pulls the pin on the pit stop strategy with just 30 minutes to go. Let's see how that one goes. This is, by the way, David Tanitsa. This is the drama that we had with Hillebrand earlier on. Just a lightest of contacts. That puts young David Tanitsa out onto the gravel and the grass, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and everybody else goes past. And David Tanitsa ain't smiling no more.
Yeah, that has been a very, very difficult day. I feel like if he's watching this replay back when the race is done and dusted, we're going to need to put some trigger warnings on it for him, because this is going to be very painful for him to rewatch. But as it stands at the moment then, in the top 20, it's Bastian Richter is the only man who has completed his mandatory pit stop, 5th position, and in traffic at the moment. So he could be losing some time in some position down there, actually down in 18th position behind Luca Lozio. So those places will shift themselves about. But I mean, it's a lottery right now, isn't it? Because where you pit and when you pit, Paul, is going to have huge implications on where you come out in the field.
Yeah, it is, and this is always the dramatic question that you have to ask yourself in this kind of race. If you're pitting at any other time than the very last possible second, the high likely percentage chances you will come out behind a car that is running on pace naturally lower down the order than you're capable of being. If you're in that situation and you've got a car or two in front of you, that is going to hold you up. Meanwhile, let's have a quick look. That's the Racing Line Motorsports Victor Airbrich. Tries to get the cutback. I didn't see that in the live pictures, but a good catch on the replay, and that is Airbrich trying to get the cutback, but having absolutely no joy in the Unicorns of Love Aston Martin. And in the end, that was a pretty messy manoeuvre. But this is Bastian Richter. This is the other Unicorns of Love car, our former second place man. And as you say, David, that's not good news. That is traffic he does not need. And look, if he was just in front of that 720S, look at all that tasty free air as everybody jumps down pit lane.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the pace right now from Luca Lozio, and Luca Lozio dives into pit lane there, but Lozio doing 155 on his last lap. That's about a second slower than the pace that the leaders were doing. So everything is all going to rest on these next 5 minutes. It was a slower pit stop as well for Bastian Richter, about 3 seconds that he lost over an optimal time. So, I mean, really, I think that's put a big dent in the chance for him to go there. But the other thing on top of that is that means that James Baldwin now has a huge opportunity to get this right and to now go for the race lead once these pit stops are done and dusted. Going back to that contact with the number 12 of Vincent Airbrich, I think that's actually what he got the drive-through penalty for. This is, I get a feeling this is going to be a huge hit. Van Omen and Hillebrand on the grass and tries to rejoin and absolutely nukes the number 557 of Hillebrand. I'm hearing that obviously it makes it difficult, on grass to stop the car. I would be very questionable to see if there was any attempt whatsoever on that.
Yeah, that was a little bit messy again, but I will say that's the first time I've seen the 888 Machine's livery. Nice. James Baldwin jumps down pit lane now. So second position on the racetrack. Still Nils Naujoks retains his race lead. There it is, Nils Naujoks. So pitting at the same time is Baldwin, Naujoks and Holborn as well. This is another replay. One of the Audi R8s running a little bit wide. So the Unicorns of Love contingent not having a good time of it. That's the Porsche that we saw facing the wrong. That's Sam Bagnall facing the wrong direction. But this is drama now, ladies and gentlemen. This is where things heat up and answers to questions start to be given. The race leaders are all down pit lane. Nils Naujoks, race leader from beginning of this event, is in pit road. James Baldwin was in third position before the pit window opened, was second position on the track courtesy of Bastian Richter coming for his stop. Nice and early. This is John Alesi Esports Academy Ferrari trying to find, that's Rose I believe in, he's trying to find the way up the inside, and the lightest of light taps to the Unicorns of Love Machine sends him into the outside of the racetrack and very much plummeting down the order. That's the number 43 machine, actually, of Rene Severo, who kisses the barriers for good measure. But let's go back to the live pictures. James Baldwin, you are right. Second position, James Baldwin jumps Bastian Richter, and Richter, where is he on the timing screens? He's nowhere to be seen.
He is in P4 at the moment. He's not appearing there. I'm trying to figure out what on earth is why he's not shown there, but he is in fourth place at the moment. So what's happened is he came out behind Tiskovic and Hubin. He's managed to dive up the inside of Tiskovic to take fourth position back. So he is in there. So you'll just have to. There we go. He's back up on there just now. So it's Nicholas Hubin in third position, but James Baldwin now out just exactly the same time behind Niles Naujoks. This is a replay then of the number 41 getting rudely. I had a word lined up there, but I'm not going to use it. But the 41 of Michael Perchheim for Whippet Racing facing the wrong way. And that's never a good sign here at Nürburgring, is it, Paul?
No, you've got to be facing the right direction. You've got to be moving forward. Otherwise, you are going backwards. As Ayanori Rose now gets a 10-second time penalty down in 19th position. So that'll be 10 seconds that are added to her time at the end of this race. But Matthias Tiskovic, as you say, 5th position. Bastian Richter manages to get away past, but it is all gone. He's the big loser from this event, Bastian Richter, isn't he? From second position, and a comfortable second position at that. Now the pressure is on. P4, not even in the podium places.
That's right, and a penalty then for Enori Rose, a 10-second time penalty for that incident on lap 7 involving Rene Sever for Unicorns of Love. So the Journalist Esports Academy driver getting that 10-second penalty. Just to bring it up to you as well, 8 manufacturers we've got in the top 10 right now. That is a stunning example of the quality of field that we've got going on right now. And again, even after the pit stops and after the 38 minutes of racing, we've got almost 20 cars within 50 seconds of each other in a hectic sprint race.
Yeah, sensational stuff here from everybody on the grid in the GT World Challenge Esports Europe Sprint Series. But particular credit I would like to lavish upon this man, Dominic Blyer, for DV1 Triton Racing, and also for Lars Kisser in the number 66 machine, Unicorns of Love. Lamborghini, beautiful looking, beautiful sounding car, but not necessarily the most competitive vehicle in the championship. To have 2 Lamborghinis running in the top 11 and Dominic Blyer trying his uppermost to make it 2 in the top 10 is a great performance from the mark here at the Nürburgring. And it's always great to see, isn't it, these titans of endurance racing having a good weekend in the hands of these 2 drivers.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I do love the Lamborghini, but like you say, it is an absolute handful. It's like an angry dog that wants to punch you every single time that it can. That's how vicious these cars are to drive. Florian Dorkup, I've got to say, as a middle-aged person, to see Florian there looking so happy, so controlled and so composed, it does make you a little bit jealous, doesn't it?
Bless him, I just want to send him some sweets. He looks so young, but doing a great job. As Dominic Blyer now also doing a great job. This is dangerous into the chicane. You don't go too wide into the chicane. The Mercedes-Benz, decides to bail from that one, but that forces Dominic Blyer wide. It was a risky move. It did not pay off, and the experience and the talent of Gregor Schill comes to the fore. He sees what's happening, takes the position from Dominic Blyer, and now charges after the car ahead as well. So there we go. That's Gregor Schill at the top of your screen, going down the inside of Dare McCormack, where Blyer could not achieve the result. Gregor Schill does indeed, and the Lamborghini now loses 1 position and still behind the Williams Esports Mercedes AMG. And Tobias Gronvold, 10-second penalty, signed, sealed and delivered from earlier in the race, is still in the hunt for points paying positions. From second on the grid, a 10-second penalty, bit of drama, bit of excitement, and now in 13th place and very much in contention. So a great drive there from Gronvold as once again Dare McCormack, the man under pressure.
Oh my goodness me. Dominic Blyer is giving me heart failure right now. I honestly thought he was going to send it up the inside of Darren McCormack for Williams Esport there. Thought better of it. But for the most part, even when we've seen some wild moves, I've got to say full credit to all these drivers for the most part, given the other drivers, the racing room, the respect and the space to be able to race hard and fair is brilliant to see. But I'm keeping my one eye at least open on the leaders right now. That gap between Noyox and James Baldwin, just 0.5 of a second. Baldwin is chomping at the bit and he's going to be waiting to try and take that lead.
I just wonder, that's a very good point you make there, David. I want to cycle back to that one again for a moment, if I can, while we've got a few seconds of relative peace and quiet, is the respect between these drivers. I very much like to see this in real and virtual racing. I'm not one of these that's all about victory at all costs. It's having a good race, it's entertaining and enjoying yourself and giving respect and racing room to your rivals. And we've seen it times many in this championship, that the level of respect for each other is just so high. They give each other enough room. They don't give anything away. They're not opening any doors and ushering people past, but they give you enough room to race against each other. And I cannot praise that enough. Some fabulous driver, great ambassadors for our virtual sport here in the SRO Esports series. This is Vincent Airbridge now trying to find a way back up the running order, relegated down to 23rd position courtesy of that drive-through penalty that he had earlier on. Remember, Airbridge in the Racing Line Motorsport machine was in 10th position for the large chunk at the start of this race, and now he's got Luca Lazio for company in 22nd and 23rd, and the equally hamstrung Robbie Stapleford a further 4 and a bit seconds in arrears. And David Tinitza just waited for this race to come to an end so he can go home down in 26, a few seconds further back.
Yeah, I've got to admit he's got a lot more patience than me, as we've got a car facing the wrong way. That's the 66 of Charlie Crossland for Team Fordzilla. Some way down the order there was Charlie Crossland, but facing the wrong way in the middle of the track. 2 penalties coming in instant, both on lap 9, the 109 and 48. It's a warning to car 109 to Angus Fender for aggressive driving on Konstantin Romanenko, and then on the same lap as well, the 72 and the 81, that's Gregor Schell and Robbie Stapleford. A 5-second time penalty for the 72 of Gregor Schell for BMW Sim Racing G2 Esports for aggressive driving. So it just shows you we're talking about respect being shown, maybe not all the way through the field.
And that's actually going to be a big cost. That is a big danger for Gregor Schell. 10th at this moment in time and having a solid race to be in and around the points paying position. But that 5-second penalty when he's got 1, 2, 3, 4 cars all covered by just over a second behind him is going to be a big cost. And Tobias Gronewold here is the man at the back of that queue, using all of the curb, a little bit of the grass, and certainly plenty of enthusiasm as well into T1. He fancies his chances, doesn't he? Tobias Gronewold has gone from what could have been a great day to being a bit of a nightmare to actually being a very solid recovery drive indeed in 13th place. Ooh.
Oh, and a little bit of contact further down. That is Robbie Stapleford against Vincent Airbridge. A little resumption of hostilities, or in fact actually was that the number 3 of Luca Lozio. So Lozio tried to hold on to that position, Airbridge tried to fire it up, but not having any of it. And I think that was a gentleman's handshake, shall we say, during that. But look, 16 minutes left to go in the race, Paul. For all intents and purposes, this has been a fantastic example of exactly how you should be racing online.
What? How is there only 16 minutes left? Where's that gone? When you said it to me, I'm like, what are you on about? It's not 16. Oh my God, it is 16 minutes. This has been incredible. This has been 45 minutes of non-stop drama, and it's still got plenty of stories left to unfold, not least of which is this one. Lars Kisser down in 8th position. This is another one of the Unicorns of Love car. They're having a great day. Unicorns of Love got cars running high up throughout the field, and Lars Kisser in 8th position in the Lamborghini, in the number 666 machine, fancies a go at Arctic Camera ahead of him. Arctic Camera wasn't born yesterday. He's a very talented and experienced driver, so he'll be a hard ask to find a way past the BMW, just like James Baldwin is trying to find a way past the BMW right at the very sharp end of the grid. Baldwin has got 15 minutes to convert his current 18 points into a potential 25, and make no mistake, James Baldwin will be acutely aware of the difficulties his rivals have been experiencing. He will know full well that the Ferrari Driver Academy team, for example, have big commitments in other series outside of this one, so maybe the eye will start to get lifted a little bit away from the task in hand. So Baldwin has got a great opportunity to add to his British GT Championship title at the start of this year in SRO Esports and take the main Sprint Series 1 as well, and he fancies it, but the only thing that's stopping that 25 points is the man ahead of him, Nils Naujoks. And David, you know as well as anybody, you have to get up very early in the morning to put one over on Nils Naujoks, especially for a race lead.
Do you know what's scary is the fact that the BMWs are not exactly what you would think are going to be up the front, but if anybody can do it, it's those BMW G2 esports team. They are absolutely insane. And hang on a minute, huge championship update. Kevin Siggy is nowhere to be found. Kevin Siggy, it looks like, has retired from the race. He was up into 20th position. He's shown as 35th right now, and he's not shown in the server. So third place in the championship is out of the race, Paul.
Oh, that is massively bad news for Kevin Siggy. A bad day goes even worse. A disconnect which retires him from the event. That's the virtual equivalent of a mechanical failure. And Kevin Siggy will score nothing from this championship, from a great second place in the penultimate race of the second to last race over at Zandvoort, and a good solid points haul in Mazzano as well. No points today for Kevin Siggy. Lucky for him, Josh Rogers is not here for VRS Coanda, but Giovanni Di Salvo is, and he'll be looking to move up from his current 5th in the championship standings as well. Di Salvo running within the points last time I looked. Yes, 6th position on track at the moment, so a solid day for Giovanni Di Salvo, but this is a race that continues to throw out drama.
It really, really is. I mean, just looking for the permutations from now, presuming in the likely event that David Tinitza doesn't score any points at all from today. If James Baldwin finishes just now in the position he is in second place, he takes 18 points. That puts him up to 108 points. That puts him 8 points behind David Tinitza in the championship. If he takes the win, he leads the championship, going with 3 rounds left to go by 1 point. Now, my question is it worth that risk? Is it worth the risk of pushing it hard to try and take that position from a race leader who is dominantly fast, Nils Naujoks, in that BMW, for the sake of being 1 point ahead with 3 races still to go?
Sat in my office commentating on this race? No, of course it's not. That would be foolish. Take the points for second and take it away. Sat in the race car of James Baldwin, as a racing driver through and through that James Baldwin is, you go for the overtake, you go for the 25, you go for glory, you know you're faster than that BMW, you execute as best you possibly can, but 11 minutes 45 seconds left on the clock. Whoa, this is going to be a dramatic conclusion to this race, I reckon, David.
Absolutely is. I'm honestly, I'm lost for words at what I think is going to happen, because everything else that we thought pre-race has went well and truly out the window. And I mean, it's almost been as exciting to watch first and second as it has to be watching 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th, down, all the way down to 24th and 25th position, duking it out. And every single one of these drivers, this is the really frustrating thing, is that we see a race and we see a car down in, say, 30th position, Paul, and we think, oh my God, they're so slow. And they're still doing lap times that would eclipse anything that I can do and would be good enough. For example, the 888 car of Jan Willem van Ommen, 154.9, that would have been good for about 24th, 25th on the grids.
Yeah, the pace is incredible. It is all down to where you are on the racetrack, a little bit of good fortune, a little bit of preparation, and just getting the right things happen to you at the right time. Eamon Murphy, a driver we know is more than capable in the Yazzie machine to run in the podium places. He's still at the back of this queue, but instead of it being 16th the last time we looked at it, it is 13th on track at this moment in time. Gregor Schill with his 5-second penalty will go behind him at the checkered flag, so that moves up in effect Eamon Murphy into 12th position, but he wants Tobias Kronwald's position, he wants Dominic Blyer's position as well. Eamon Murphy wants points from this race. It is so, as a driver, isn't it, David, it's so frustrating to give so much of yourself and be so close to points but not have anything to show for your troubles.
It really is, and what makes it even worse is, like you say, when everything is so cutthroat, when everything is so tightly balanced like this, you can do the drive of your life and still only come away with a 15th position, no points, but you know that you've given everything that you can possibly do. Just watching Niles Noyox here, I've got to be honest, I don't think James is going to get past. I think Niles has got control of this race. We've got 10 minutes left to go. We know James is a fast racer, but Niles is an absolute master with this tank of a BMW right now.
And I'm just going to play devil's advocate just for the fun of it and say I reckon James Baldwin's got this one. He looks like, let's watch on board, if the director can hear us, let's watch on board a little bit James Baldwin now. Let's see how this McLaren 720S is behaving compared to the BMW ahead. I would venture a guess that BMW is having to be pushed harder than it would like to be to stay in track position. That means his tyres will be a little bit more tired than the rival. Look at it struggling to hold the line through the exit of the corner. Now York's using all of the racetrack, but the car's just squiggling a little bit underneath him. It just looks a little bit less happy on the brakes, a little bit less happy on the turning. Baldwin can get the nose into the apex. He can manipulate the racing line a little bit more than that BMW ahead of him can. Now York's struggling to stay in the confines of the racetrack. Baldwin able to carry the same kind of speed but using less of the racetrack in which to do it. That to me, David, suggests this McLaren is got a bit more life in the tyres. The setup is a little bit more comfortable in the corners than the BMW, but they just don't have the straight line pull that big M6 GT3 ahead does.
That BMW is outrageous. I'm watching it in the straight line, and obviously, yes, it does completely struggle in the twisty turny bits, but I mean, watch this as it comes round the final corner. It really does struggle there, and it makes James Baldwin think he has a chance, and the BMW just lights the afterburners and goes, see you later. And I mean, what can James Baldwin do short of a late lunge? I mean, I don't know why Noyox is getting defensive there, but I mean, Noyox, it's not just that start-finish straight. It's like any time that car comes out of the corner and just goes on the acceleration, boom, it's away it goes.
Yeah, it's good on launch from the corner, and it's also good halfway down the straight as well. So they're two really important aspects of keeping position or making a position. If you can get off the turn quickly, and if you can continue down the straight quickly as well, it is almost impossible to find a way past. But if the car's struggling like it is, if James Baldwin is pushing now Yorks to his absolute limit, all he needs is one snatch break from the BMW, one significantly missed apex, one run wide onto the rumble strip, and that will open an opportunity for James Baldwin. And you do not give James Baldwin opportunities and expect to get away with it, as Dominic Blyer now gets a drive-through penalty for avoidable contact. So Dominic Blyer in the number 10 DV1 Triton machine, 11th on track, will have to come and say hello, wave and drive past his pit crew, and he goes for a little bit of grass cutting as well, no doubt trying to concentrate on the track and swear at the penalty at the same time. Dominic Blyer, good day, unfortunately starts to go a little bit wrong in the dying moments to this race.
Yeah, it's almost like you can pinpoint the moment where his race spotter tells him about a drive-through penalty, the distraction's there, and he runs a little bit wide, and now he's got to watch out for Tobias Grunwald. Well, he doesn't really, because he's got a drive-through penalty to take anyway, but Grunwald smells the blood in the water, and this should be a very, very straightforward overtake. Right, I obviously, as I said, I want to try and keep an eye on the rest of the field, but here's another dynamic in that Niles Noyox and James Baldwin race. Have a look at Nick Houben. Nick Houben was a second and a half behind that group, and now he's 0.6 of a second behind them, maybe about 0.8 of a second behind them now, and he is getting very, very close right now. If these two are at that pace, Houben could fancy getting a little bit racy here as well, Paul. 5 minutes 45 left to go, and I'm starting to get a little bit nervous.
Yeah, Houben coming from nowhere. What a sensational drive in this race. Nicholas Houben, I believe this is the first race of the season in this championship for Nicholas Houben, doing absolute wonders. This is Dominic Blyer now. No doubt this is the move that earned him the penalty. The Williams Esport machine ahead shows his nose nice and early coming into T1. The Williams car not having any of it, closes the door, and ooh, that's harsh for Dominic Blyer. He should have slowed the car down, of course, but the Williams machine could very easily have given him a little bit of racing room as well. So I think Blyer, that one's very much on the edge of whether that was a penalty or not for me.
Oh, I'm completely the opposite direction on that one. He shouldn't have had his nose in. There was no chance of getting the position on that corner. And for me, that Williams Esport car had the corner. But, I mean, look, racing drivers are going to race and drive, are they? They're going to try and stick their nose in at every opportunity. And, I mean, it's what makes these races so entertaining, not just for everybody at home, hopefully watching, but for us to commentate on. They are an absolute joy from start to finish. And honestly, we leave the commentary booth at the end of these 60 minutes with a massive smile on our faces.
Oh, absolutely. This is not work. This is pure and simple pleasure. The racing in the virtual world, I've said this now for a long, long time. As a hardcore motorsport fan, been a motorsport fan from as long as I can remember. My first memory is Nigel Mansell grinding to a halt at Canada in 1991 from the race lead. I enjoy virtual motorsports now far more, often produces a far better race than its real life equivalent, and this is very much a case today. This has been 1 hour start to finish of dramas. We're looking at Ayanori Rose now struggling to keep the Jean-Alesi Esports Academy machine pointing in the right direction. Ayanori's had a bit of a difficult time of it dropping down, but look, Nicholas Houben, he's decided now is the time to go. James Baldwin suddenly has a little bit more to think about. This is gold for Nils Naujoks. This is exactly what Naujoks need, and Houben has quite literally nothing to worry about apart from taking the position. No championship, no dramas. He sees the place, he wants the place, and I reckon, David, he's got a very fine chance indeed of taking that place.
This is where 3000 IQ strategy comes into the mix now. If Baldwin has no option and it looks likely that Audi is going to take the position, for me, let him take the position. The championship is more important than this race, and it's the difference between a DNF and potentially scoring no points than getting a third position and still scoring some points. If he can hold on, which looks possible, then by all means. But Houben does look very, very dangerous right now. But look at that pendulum. It swings back and forward. And then Baldwin looks like he's actually catching up on Naujoks. So the real outside chance is that Houben could end up doing both of them. I think that's massively unlikely, but it is still on the verge of possibility from Houben right now in that Audi.
We love this sort of thing. $1 million question for you, David Christie. You're Nicholas Houben. This is your first race. You've got no points up to this point. Do you even think about the fact that's a championship contender in front of you, or do you just see it as a place to take?
It's just another victim there, Paul. Just send it, absolutely send it every opportunity that you can. But then that is why I'm not racing with these guys, really. You know, that is why I get to talk about it, because I'm not very good at it. But look, if you're Houben, you've got the pace, you've rattled James Baldwin. He's trying to fight his own fight here. But Nick Houben, from my experience, is a very, very respectful and very, very mature sim racer. Watch this as he punts James Baldwin off now. But Nick Houben is very, very good at what he does. There's not a chance that he's gotten this far up the field by taking wild chances. He'll be very measured. There's only a minute and a half. I think he'd be happy with third place there, but I think he will still keep pushing it to the very end.
And this is just amazing to see. 60 minutes of racing, a mandatory pit stop, 42 cars on the grid, 12 different brands, 31 different teams, and coming down to the final minute, these cars are separated by absolutely nothing at the front of the field. That is all that you could possibly ask for as a spectator, a broadcaster and a competitor. The racing has been incredible, and we've still got some results to try and nail out in the final 60 seconds of competition. Can James Baldwin take the race lead? Can Nils Naujoks hold on? And can Nicholas Newman come from absolutely nowhere and score a sensational result? We'll find out, but David, every second of this has just been incredible. It's not over yet.
It really, really is. And I'm just looking on the championship table as well. Giovanni De Salvo is going to score some big points tonight in the number 4. But look at this, James Baldwin very, very close to Niles. A little bit of a wobble there. That brings the two of them right up. And this is potentially going to be the final lap that we're starting here. It is. And this is now starting to get very, very spicy indeed. And if you're James, Paul, I mean, what do? Do you try and throw it? Because the BMW just roars away at the straight there. I think James is going to have to try and settle here for second position.
I think that's possible, but that will have inspired him. A very rare Nils Naujok's mistake. Unfortunately, Baldwin couldn't capitalise, running deep into the final corner, but he'll know now. He will know that Nils Naujok's ahead is a little bit rattled. He'll know that Naujoks is more than aware that there are two very hungry McLaren cars behind, looking to find a way past. And more to the point, James Baldwin will know that Hooper behind is not afraid to get stuck in. So Baldwin, the best course of defence is to attack and get a BMW between himself and Nick Huben. But last lap dramas.
Can I just remind you that Nick Huben started 11th position on the grid, and he's already up into 3rd position. That, on his debut, that is an astonishing achievement for him.
Yeah, you can't look much further than Nicholas Huben for driver of the day today, I don't think. And he's done it in such an unobtrusive way as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, it's been very cool, calm, collected, exactly what you expect as the cars head up towards the final couple of corners here. But Nils Naujoks, I mean, I cannot take anything away from him in that car. That BMW is a marmite of a car, and it's normal, guys. It is slow, it is uncompetitive, but with this BOP, this custom BOP for the championship, breathes a new breath of life into it, and it really makes it competitive. And Nils Naujoks still able to wring the very best out of that car.
Right then, here we go, coming into the final corner from 4th on the grid. A lightning start for Nils Naujok, set up what would look like an unlikely victory. Naujok screaming his delight, picture in picture, wheels the car, flashes the lights over the line. Nils Naujok's for BMW Sim Racing G2 Esports takes a sensational race victory here in the GT World Challenge Esports Europe Sprint Series at the Nürburgring. Nils Naujok is our race winner. James Baldwin, championship challenger, crosses the line in 2nd position, and Nick Huben in 3rd place on what has been one of the most impressive debuts in the series that I have seen so far to date on the bottom step of the podium. And David Christie, we thought it might be fun. It looked like it was going to be fun. I reckon that was fun.
I don't know, I've seen better, to be honest. You know, it was just an average day at the races, really, wasn't it? I can't even say that with a straight face. That was epic from start to finish. I mean, for a race winner to get in there, for Niles to take that BMW and just put it right from 4th place to get into the lead. Amazing stuff. And to hold off all that pressure from James Baldwin, from everybody else who was throwing pressure at his way. I mean, that was amazing, amazing stuff. But for me, I mean, that man right there, that Nick Huben, to take 3rd place, that was an amazing drive. But Nils Naujoks had to work hard for that win today. Championship-wise, huge implications. Kevin Siggy disconnecting from the race. David Tinitza having one of the worst races, I think, that he's had in the championship. In fact, confirmed the worst race that he's had outing. And the worst possible time to have it. James Baldwin now 8 points away on the championship. 3 rounds left to go. We head to Imola. Who knows what is going to happen, Paul?
If things needed to get a bit more spicy, they have indeed. 3 wins for David Tinitza, 3 wins for James Baldwin. Championship separated by next to nothing. It's pretty much a two-horse race, and there's 3 races left to go. As you say, next time out, we're going to be at Imola, October the 15th, and quick fire to Barcelona on the 29th, and rounding out the season at Spa-Francorchamps on the 12th of November. But that is all in the future. Now we need to concentrate very much on the here and now. And Nils Naujoks, what a drive. 8th in the championship standings, heading into this race with 27 points to his name. Wham thank you, man. That's 25 points for one single race. Doubled his tally almost in one event. That's how good he's been today.
Yeah, I think that takes him up to 6th position. So brilliant effort for him. Giovanni De Salvo as well, I think, may very well leapfrog Josh Rogers to take 4th position, maybe on that one. But Paul, I think back to you, and I think we've got our very first interview.
Fantastic. So here we go. I do believe we've got Nils Naujoks joining us in the booth. And Nils Naujoks, congratulations, race victor in GT World Challenge Sprint Series. What a race, well done.
Thanks. That was a crazy one, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell us about your race then. It all started right for the very first corner with a sensational start.
I've no clue what happened to the Essence. Maybe I overestimated the starting capacities, but the BMW had all its torque, all its horsepower ready for the first straight, and for whatever reason I had my nose in front come the first corner.
Yeah, you were really composed in the opening laps, but James Baldwin ran you close during that race. How difficult was it to stay ahead of the McLaren guy?
First of all, it was really difficult to get into a rhythm because with the BMW throughout the whole season, we didn't really have a shot at the front positions. So all of a sudden I got a bit nervous, and probably the telemetry, if somebody checks it, will see that my braking lag was a bit shaky in the first couple laps. So it definitely took some time to get used to having clean air one more time. And then I had the super quick Aston for half the race behind me, who certainly had the better pace. I just tried to do as little mistakes as possible. The car's very much on the edge here on this track. Every little bounce can throw you off. So yeah, it was tough. I'm completely sweat.
We saw your webcam as you crossed the line, and the shout and the cheer. It means a lot to you. How much does it mean to you, this victory? You're often a very cool, calm and collected customer in racing. It's great to see that emotion on your face. What does this mean to you?
I don't know, when you saw calm and collected, mostly I'm raging, either about the car or about some competitor. But of course, it means a lot to win in the BMW, where we usually perceive the car as being a bit off the pace, mostly. This time the BOP got us really close, and in front I could just stay ahead of the guys and keep them in check and not really offer them a chance throughout the race. So those emotions on the positive side for once. I'm really happy about that, and I was certainly thinking for the last 3-4 laps about it, and tried to stop myself to think about how I would celebrate and really just collect myself again and just finish the race first.
Fantastic. Now, you said earlier that the Aston Martin, that was Bastian Richter for the Unicorns of Love car, shadowed you in the first part of the race. Do you think he had the pace to overtake, or were you quick enough at the right sectors? What was that all about? Was it a strategic thing to follow you, do you think, or did you ever have any doubts that you could hold him back?
I'm not sure how much I helped him with the slipstream, because I guess the Aston is a bit slower on the straight, and during the corners he was able to come really close to me and then stay in my draft, so maybe he gained 1 or 2 tenths from that. But I knew on the straight I usually had enough punch in the car to keep him behind and never give him a shot into the corner. So I don't think I had to defend once, really. I think he had one shot in the last corner or so, but it wasn't really an attempt. He was just trying to scare me. But I knew once I made a mistake, this would be the point where he would be side by side, and then certainly had the better run through any corner.
Well, it's absolutely thoroughly enjoyed watching that one, Nils. That was a sensational drive from you. And we head, of course, to Imola for the next round. Is this a repeatable performance? Are we going to see BMW at the sharp end of the grid next time?
The BMW isn't too bad on Imola, but we saw, I think there was a race a couple of weeks ago where some other cars certainly had a couple tenths on us, so let's hope the BOP considers that, brings the cars again a bit closer, and yeah, hopefully I can use the width of the car again to make it impossible for someone to get by.
Well, fantastic stuff. You should be very proud of yourself today. That was a brilliant race. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And Nils Naujoks, race winner. Well done again. Congratulations.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Fantastic stuff. Bye-bye. And David, there we go. That's a man who's pretty pleased with his evening's work.
Yeah, and rightfully so. He had to work hard for it, but he really, really did deserve it. That BMW was so fast in a straight line. But that's only one part of the puzzle. You can have that. You have to also have Lady Luck on your side. And he certainly did have that. I wish I could say the same for the likes of his teammates. I saw Arthur Kammerer actually popping up in chat in the 747 saying that it should have been a double BMW podium. Now, obviously, Arthur finished down in 7th position, so he's feeling a little bit aggrieved. And potentially, if had the rub of the luck, it could have been a different race. But I mean, an epic race, huge championship implications, especially for David Tinitza and for Kevin Siggy. James Baldwin will be delighted with that one, and we move on to Imola in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, fantastic stuff, and that is indeed the big takeaway. We've got a delighted race victor. We've got a championship now that has been set up for a glorious run-in, and as you say, next time out at Imola on October the 15th, the Sprint Series will return. So everybody at home, thank you. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did in the commentary box. Thank you for your company over this last hour and a half. Thank you to Fanatec, AWS, Pirelli, Kunos, Simulazione, AK Esports, SimGrid, Stefan Brattel organisation, and of course the SRO Esports Championship. I've been Paul Jeffrey. Alongside me has been the legend that is David Christie. And until next time, take care. See you again. Bye-bye.